Everyone here with HotshotGG by the Fireside to sort of discuss a little bit about his life and everything that's happened with him in esports. Hotshot, let's start off with where you grew up. You're apparently Canadian, correct?
Yes, I was born in Ontario, Canada.
Okay.
A town called London, and I lived there most of my life.
Yeah. What was it like for you as growing up? Like, did you have a bunch of brothers and sisters, or what's your family life like?
Well, I have a younger brother, and I lived with my mother most of my life. And it was pretty much just school, video games, school, video games, school, video games, and more video games.
So father not so much in the picture?
At the start of my life, but later on,
Okay.
Unfortunately not.
So you say school video games. Were you kicking ass in school and then doing video games on the side, or what was the school life like for you?
I started off kicking ass in school, and somewhere along the lines, I was just like, well, I think I like video games more.
Yeah. Can you remember around what year or what grade you were?
I think once I hit high school, I started devoting more time to video games and less time to school.
How about extracurriculars? Did you ever do band, or were you a part of soccer? I don't know what you guys do in Canada.
Yeah. So my earlier life, so everything before high school, I was on like the basketball team. I was on a professional soccer team. I was on, sorry, not a professional soccer team. I was on a it wasn't an amateur soccer team. It was like one of the, not a Premier League, but just the league right under it.
Okay.
And then I was training to get my lifeguards, and I was pretty fit. I was actually doing a lot of extracurricular activities. And then it's just somewhere in high school I decided that could be video game time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just dropped it all?
Pretty much.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you have a job or anything like that back then, or did you do anything to make money, or CLG been basically your first job?
No, I did get a job at a packaging factory. Well, it's a food packaging factory. So basically, they made the food there, and then I would call up all the restaurants and I would get their orders from them, and then I would package all the necessary like spices or foods and box them and then ship the boxes out, and yeah, that was my job.
How long did you do that for?
Well, I started streaming while I had my job, and I think it was 6 to 8 months within that job. Streaming was just getting bigger and bigger, and I was like, well, I can do more streaming, so why don't I just...
How old were you around the time you started streaming?
I believe I was 19.
First thing you started streaming was League of Legends?
Yes.
Okay.
League of Legends was the first game I streamed.
Well, let's start back up a little bit. You got into video games, whenever you were younger. What type of video games did you like to play?
So Blizzard was like my favorite genre, or not my favorite developer. I played all the Warcraft games, Warcraft 2, the first Warcraft. I loved Warcraft 3. Diablo 1 was I think one of my favorite games of all time. Diablo 2 was one of my favorite games of all time. So I grew up on Blizzard titles.
Okay.
But
StarCraft?
StarCraft I played too, but I didn't play the ladder competitively or anything like that. I just played use map ascending games.
Okay. Anything besides those? Did you play like RPGs or anything like that?
Yeah, I always played like RPGs, and I was a big console guy. Instead of going to school, I pretty much played video games. So I'm the worst influence ever. But so yeah, I would play like Halo. I was a big Halo fan too. Halo 1 and 2. I was really competitive in the Halo 2 ladder.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't go into the scene or anything like that, but it was fun back in the day.
You said that you transitioned out of sort of playing games and doing extracurriculars into video games. Was that just because you found them fun, or did you enjoy like the competitiveness of this? Because I know a lot of the titles you mentioned were kind of online, where you're playing with other people, some competitive. Like, what really brought you into this passion for video games, do you think?
So the primary factor, I think, was Warcraft 3. And one of the things I loved about Warcraft 3, sorry about that, was the ladder and playing solo and playing 1v1s. And the competitive aspect of it just made me feel that I was always challenging myself. I was always trying to outthink my opponent, out micro myself, you know, like just get better and better and better and better. And that's what really drove me to, like, I guess the passion I have for video games. It was probably Warcraft 3 ladder. I really, really loved it.
So would you describe yourself as like a really competitive person?
Yeah, I think I'm very competitive. I always strive to improve myself as much as I can, and if I don't see that improvement, I just try harder and harder and harder.
Okay. So you switched from Warcraft 3 into, what did you play after Warcraft 3?
I switched straight into Dota, and I was actually, I met a lot of the people that were in the early Dota scene, like Pink Priestess, which is Renoa, Nas, which was a big like forum moderator at the time, who helped me get on band. There were a bunch of other people that you were kind of in like the early Dota TDA scene that I...
So that was sort of your introduction to esports, would you say? Or was that back in Warcraft 3? Like, at what point in time did you start to understand that there was this competitive gaming tournament system, you know, almost like an industry starting to really happen around a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, it was Dota, I think, that really started it for me, and I started realizing, you know, there's this competitive aspect. But I also think Warcraft 3 itself, too, was a big proponent to that. Like, I always watched Grubby play. Yeah. Grubby was like my favorite player, so I would always watch like Sky, Moon, and it was like the best times just to watch those guys play.
How about World of Warcraft? Because you mentioned all these different Blizzard games, and right around the same time, Dota. Like, did you ever get into WoW?
Yeah, I got into WoW too, and I loved my WoW years up until the end. The end just got a little stale, and
what expansion did you bail out at?
I bailed out at Cataclysm.
Okay. So you played well into League of Legends time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you played Dota. Did you play Dota competitively at all? Any All-Stars competitively, or did you just sort of play?
No, I just play like semi-competitively. Like I think I played in a few in-house league games, but mostly.
League or anything like that?
No. It just pretty much TDA most of the time.
Did you switch from Dota to League, or did you do what some people did, where they went to Han for a little bit? Like, what was your pathway into League like?
I ended up playing Han, and that's kind of where I sat for a while. And I was playing against the best players in Han, and so like I knew I was getting better and I was really good. And then just one day I decided to try League. I think I just got bored one day, and I wanted to try the game that no one wanted to, you know, like try. Back then it was like, League is a game for babies, real men play Han. And I ended up really, really enjoying it. And back then League wasn't that big. And to me it was like, oh, why don't I just go this game and just start being the best I can be at that game too. Because I like trying to be the best at everything. So I was playing Han and I was playing League.
So you're playing them both simultaneously?
Yeah, I was playing them both simultaneously.
When did you just switch over to League entirely, or did that just happen gradually over time?
I think, so for me to get at the top of the League ladder, I think took 2 weeks. So like I got there abnormally fast to play with like all the top level players like Reginald back then, and like Chauster and GG. It took me only 2 weeks to get there. So I kind of alternated for a bit, but once I got to the very top players, I just loved the game more than I did Han.
When did you end up hopping into League in relation to like when the game actually launched? Were you playing at all in the beta, or are you actually after launch? Like
I
a couple
was
months or whatever?
really, really far after. Well, not really far after launch, but a significant margin. When Snowbuddy in Italy first came out, that's when I...
It's around December time, because that was like a Christmas skin.
Yeah, that was a Christmas skin, so around December.
So why does Snow Bunny in Italy stand out so much to you? Like, how are you able to use that as a milestone?
Well, okay, so Nidalee was my favorite champion, right? And back then I always loved playing underpowered heroes and underpowered characters, and when Nidalee came out back then, everybody kind of was bad, so they didn't really know who was strong or not. But they said Nidalee was weak to balanced. And so I was like, no one plays in Italy. She's weak champion. She's interesting. I really want to play her. And so I bought the Snow Bunny skin because it was limited edition. And I just hopped on it and I just spammed Italy like no other.
How did your introduction into League and sort of coming up to the top of the ladder, how did that translate over into you eventually forming like CLG? Did you participate on any teams? You know, like a lot of the history of that early time is somewhat lost and vague for a lot of people. I was around, but I maybe wasn't following that much. So was CLG like the first team you were on, or you know what was going on back then?
So everybody just played solo queue all day, and the solo queue is a lot worse than it is now too. Because there was no bans and everybody just played the same champions.
Okay.
And so I started streaming, and I started getting like all this attention because I don't know, I was really, really good for the time.
Right.
And Italy's a really flashy champion, you know, those like flash spears and those insane getaways and those ball hops. So everybody loved watching me, so yeah.
Were you one of the first League streamers, or had people streamed before? I mean, you're often cited as like the first big real League of Legends streamer. Do you think that's like a fair assessment, or?
So it is in a way. I wasn't the first streamer. There were other people that streamed before me. Like Elements was a notable one. There were a lot of League streamers, but it wasn't a really big thing. Like the most anyone ever got back then was like 100, 200 viewers. The time I think I considered myself the only big League streamer, and quite possibly the only big full-time streamer, was when I was having like 20K viewers every day, and everybody else was having like 300.
Was this on 3D?
This was on Own3D, yes.
Did you start on Own3D? Because I remember for a while people streamed on live stream.
Yeah, so I started on a live stream, and I don't remember what happened, but we ended up moving from live stream to Justin TV.
Okay.
I think me and Day9 moved, and I don't remember why we moved.
Well, I remember Day9 always cites livestream.com as like they wanted you guys to pay them to stream on their service. You know, he uses that very frequently.
Yeah, I don't remember, but something got me to move to Justin TV. And then what ended up happening was we settled at Justin TV, and they couldn't actually handle the traffic.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, the European audience got shafted. And so none of the European viewers could watch my stream because there was like a max cap of European viewers that can watch a certain channel at one time. So that's when Own3D approached us, and that's when it kind of all started.
So you started streaming on Own3D, started getting the big numbers. When did you, like, what was the first League of Legends tournament that you participated in? I'm assuming it was like a little online one or something.
It was hosted by Riot. It was called the Razor Twisted Tree Line Tournament.
Okay, I remember this actually.
And we came second. TSM won, and Reginald hard carried on Jack's. Oh wait, please don't. Yeah, it was a close series, and you know they ended up winning in the end.
So the TSM won. Were you CLG at that point?
I don't believe we were CLG at that point.
Yeah. So what is the history of you on League of Legends teams, I guess is the best way to ask the question.
So when the first time we participated as a team, I think it was during a Newegg tournament. I can't be 100% sure, but the first tournament was probably a Newegg tournament.
Okay.
But when season 1 started, or preseason started, we still had our teams going because we all wanted to like make our teams to compete each other. And TSM was actually called All or Nothing.
All right.
And CLG was CLG. And you know, we'd always play in ladder, and back then CLG was just so good. And so I think we ended up going like 16-2 versus them, and we were uncontested like best team in NA.
Hey, tell me the story of how CLG actually came into existence, because it sounds like you were just on these fun little random teams for these tournaments before, but how did CLG become like an entity?
So CLG was supposed to be a community at first, and I had a huge stream following, and I wanted to make CLG for the longest time. That name, Counter Logic, was always in my head. Yeah. So I had a massive stream following, and one day a person approached me about building a website, that he'd help me build a website, and his name was Voodoo. And from there forward, I started making money from streaming, and then I was able to kind of like fund an organization from there. So I put all of my initial money into like paying for travel and getting us to events and stuff like that.
It seems as though you guys, despite your ups and downs, have always maintained a really strong fan base. Mm-hmm. Do you think any of that has to do with the fact that you guys started as like a community first, like CLG, before it was even a team, from what you're saying, was a community first? Do you think that sort of that mentality and having sort of this heritage is a factor in the fact that you guys have had this really devoted fan base over all these years?
I think so. The community that we built used to be in like our IRC too, and we used to be like a really tight-knit family. And I always expected the same people to show up every day, and they always did, and I was always there, I was always interacting with them. And so I guess we all kind of like grew up together, I guess. It was really cute, it was fun.
Lay out the original CLG roster for me.
The original CLG roster. It was me, HotshotGG, and then we had 2 Korean players, Saber Tiger and Lao Ching, I believe.
All right.
And then what ended up happening is the season was going to start, and it was North American only participants, right? And so we needed to pick up 2 American players, and Kobe was, our first choice.
Yeah.
And Elements was our second choice, I believe.
So you had these 4 guys. How did you come about meeting them? Was it just sort of like, hey, they're in solo queue, they're good? Like, how did you select these guys as your original team?
Yeah, so it's pretty much from solo queue that this all started. That's how you know where someone's good or not. That was the only test of skill. Yeah. Was solo queue. So.
Was this you assembling the team? Like, you're like, here's my 4 guys, I'm gonna pick them up, or was it like a discussion where you were talking to GG? Like, what was happening behind the scenes in the assembling of this?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me go back a bit.
No, it's fine. Yeah, go for it.
Lil Balls was on the team instead of Elements. Elements came a little bit after.
Friend, right?
Yeah, he was Gigi's friend. So that was the initial roster, and yeah, we had to kind of put in those 2 players after because yeah, it was North American only. So Lil Balls kind of got shafted, but we really liked him, and he was like a friend to us and stuff.
Obviously, a lot of these guys have gone on to do other things, retired, or been on different teams. Kobe now casting. Do you look back at those points in time with fond memories of all those guys, or is it just sort of like a thing of the past for you?
No. They're definitely fond memories. I can remember like all sitting in a hotel for WCG. The first time all of us have seen each other. Like, we'd never shared pictures. We never seen each other. Like, I mean, like everybody saw me, but
right.
No one else really streamed or anything. And we were all sitting. Like, there was 9 of us, like 2 teams, and Kobe was the only one missing, and his name is Kobe24.
Right.
So you can imagine what we thought he looked like.
Yes.
So
yeah.
And then
basketball fan.
Yeah.
He looked like a basketball.
He looked like a basketball fan.
Yeah.
And so in comes this beautiful blonde hair. Well, he's not actually blonde haired, but.
Well, I mean, he's fair hair.
Fair hair, yeah. Fair hair, like deep eyes, like very pretty face, and we're just like.
Yeah, Kobe's a pretty boy. That's what I've seen people say on Reddit.
Yeah, and he was really tall too. We didn't expect any of this, but it was really, the moment he walked in, we all just looked at him and we're like.
So good memories. Hey, what's it like seeing Kobe now as a caster?
I'm really happy for him because Kobe's a really, really nice guy. He's always been a really good guy. Whenever he was on the team, he only had a positive attitude,
right.
And I'm glad he's working for Riot.
So over time, you guys had this team start to develop, and the site got bigger. You guys sort of became like a company. a lot of people, I think, don't really know like the history of the company. Like they've seen different managers come in, that kind of thing, and they also don't always have like maybe the best understanding of what your involvement has been in the company. So if you could take me over, maybe not up till now, but like the beginning of how this company developed. Like obviously you had the website with Voodoo, who I think is still like a co-owner in the company, correct? And then at the same time you're building this team and starting to participate. How does the company start to be born out of all this?
So what ended up happening is I started making a lot of money from streaming, right? And from there, I was able to start paying for travel. And I could only just get by on travel because it was just me paying for pretty much everything.
Right.
And sponsors weren't really that big back then. And they didn't really give us that much money.
All right.
And so I was basically forking out all the money to pay for everything. And what ended up happening is streaming got even bigger, and then salaries started getting into the mix. So I was basically paying for everybody's salaries, and I was also paying for travel and everything too.
So early on, is it safe to say that a lot of like the salaries and everything, that was all just from like you had sponsors, you had Razer back then. They've been with you guys for a long time, but a lot. It sounds like a significant portion of that was all just privately funded by your streaming success, yeah?
Pretty much. It was pretty much, I'd say 95% of the company was funded by my streaming success.
How much, how old were you at that time?
I was 20.
Okay.
Or 21.
So you're around 2021, a couple years out of high school. You didn't ever decide to do the college thing, right? You just went straight into all this.
I tried to do the college thing, and what ended up happening is I didn't like the program I was in, so I just went back home and I wanted to reevaluate things.
Okay. And that's, you go back, you do the streaming thing. You had enough money, evidently, to fly people around and pay salaries and all that. And you're just a young guy at this time. Was it ever kind of a surreal experience for you? Did it ever hit you like, wow, I've got a lot of money? Or was this... Because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are like very business-minded, and I think a lot of people maybe look at Reginald like this. But for you, it seems like a lot of your drive to do this stuff was out of a passion for the game.
Yeah.
And a passion for your team and the competitive spirit. So, how did you handle like having all this money? Was it a weird experience for you, and having this like personal financial success?
Yeah, it was a really weird experience for me. So I think the difference, a big difference between me and Reggie is like I'm like 90% for like just the competitive spirit, for getting better, for always challenging myself. And back when I was on CLG, that's kind of why that was kind of the decision we made to go to Korea. I really wanted to go so that we could train and be the best. Yeah. Like it wasn't a business decision. It was, I want to be the best team in the world. I want to get there. How do we get there? This is how I think we can get there. And unfortunately, there was a lot of mechanisms that needed to be in place before that. And not only that, I don't think the team had the best attitude either. Like some of them couldn't even like really take gaming even seriously. They were just like, this is a fun thing for now. It was never a real job to them, and so they didn't treat it as such.
Are you talking about when you're in Korea, or
just leading up to that? Okay. Because you needed things in place. Like I kind of wanted to get into a gaming house as soon as possible, and there was like huge opposition for that. And I kind of wanted to coach. There's also huge opposition for that, and it's just like people didn't really consider it as serious as it was, in my opinion. And looking back, I wish everybody did, but that's just the reality of what the situation was.
So sort of going back to when you're 19, 20, and you've got this financial success, you're supporting the team. Again, was it ever a strange experience, like realizing how financially successful you were, or like trying to figure out how best to spend this money and where to spend it?
So yeah, I didn't really have any guidance, and I didn't really have someone I could divulge any info to because it's really private information, and companies have me under NDA. And so I'm like, how do I do this? Like, what do I do? How do I give up salaries and whatever? So I ended up having like close friends come up to me and were like, well, people I thought were close friends to me. and came up to me and they're like, you know, I have this college degree, or I'm like, I have my master's in this, or, and they all said this is how you should run the business, and I kind of listened to them. And even though I hesitated and I thought that you know, like the decisions they were making were a little awkward and not really, you know, good decisions, I'm like, oh, well, they have their master's or their university degree, and I'm just a 20-year-old kid. These guys are older, you know, like they know what they're doing. And it ended up, what ended up happening is all those people eventually left the company, or I made them leave the company, because they were just doing things that, well, they were leading me into things that kind of just detracted from the company's success.
Okay.
So
yeah, it sounds like you had several years of just sort of strange experience with management and all that kind of thing. And now you've gotten to the point, are you happy with sort of where the company is right now?
You know, I wish the team would be winning more. That's pretty much the only thing that I'm focusing on right now. CLG needs to win, and I want the team to be a world-class team again. Because right now, you know, they haven't been showing much strength at all, and I want everybody to feel confident that they can be the best, and that's what we're striving for right now. And once that's achieved, you know, I can put my hands back and be like, finally, you know, like maybe we can take a sigh of relief. But until that happens, we're going hard. So.
Hey, hopping back to your pro gaming career, when do you think that you were most happy, most proud of what was happening with you? Like, was it early on? I mean, a lot of people look at CLG and they say, you know, especially the CLG fans, very, very unfortunately, you know, a lot of your success happened early on. People talk about how Double Lift has yet to win like a tournament, LAN or whatever. Was it the early times that were the happiest for you? Do you think that it was when you were in Korea? When do you think you were really most proud of your success as a professional gamer in the team?
Honestly, I think I was most proud of my success individually when I was just streaming. Okay. And when like I was the only person that really I had to take responsibility for. Because when that happened, all I had to do was stream every day, like 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I had no other care in the world. It's just everything started to get weird and overwhelming once other personalities got involved into my life. It's so much to deal with, you know, 4 other people plus business management, and it gets really like frustrating, complicated.
How about the team's success? Like, when have you been most proud of the team? At least during the time that you were on it.
I think the most proud I've been with the team is when we kind of had that win streak at the start. So the most proud I've been for myself, and I guess the team, was kind of when we had a sub at IEM, and we ended up winning, and I ended up getting MVP. That was like one of the highlight moments for me. And I think actually, if I'm to say the most proud moment, is probably back in 2011 at the first WCG. That's when I felt we were a team for the first time, and like we really all wanted it, and it was really cute. Like that was my favorite moment.
This was when you were in LA?
Yeah, this was when we were.
I actually was there for that. That was really fun. Saw Kobe miss some Amumu abilities. So it was fun stuff. Rough times for him. Yeah. Now he's better. So whenever you were on the team, there was this really big rivalry with TSM. And where did that all stem from? Was it just the fact that you guys were the 2 biggest teams at the time? Was it a personal thing between you and Reginald? Was it like the fans sort of forcing like TSM and CLG and you guys kind of joined in? Or was it all this together? You know, what really happened there to spark this rivalry that we still see today?
I think it was just me and Reginald that started it off. That's what kicked off the flare. And then what ended up happening is for months and months, we played each other, and CLG would always kick TSM's butt or All or Nothing's butt. And then, you know, that pissed Reginald off. And, that's where it all started. The rivalry started from there, and then it started turning into team rivalries. And now, like, we have very controversial personalities on CLG, and some of the members on TSM are like really passive aggressive and like, and really kind of they get heated up when CLG's mentioned, or like members of the team are mentioned, or when like Double says I'm the best AD carry in the world, Wild Turtle's like, so like all that kind of like it evolved from kind of me and Reggie, I guess.
Do you think the rivalry has simmered down, at least for you?
Oh yeah, it's simmered down tons. It's just like I'm cool with Reggie now, and the rivalry is still there, but it's not as crazy as it used to be.
Right.
Like, me and Reggie used to hate each other. We used to be like at each other's throats, and all we wanted to do was beat each other. So
you have seen Riot Games grow and change, and you've been right there alongside them for almost since the start. Obviously, you've seen they didn't have an esports department for a while, and then they had an esports department of I think maybe 2 or 3 people. Now they've got this big whole thing running, like a global network of esports stuff. Yeah. What has it been like for you to sort of see the progression that they've taken from the start until now?
I'm really happy that Riot has invested so much money and time into esports.
Yeah.
Because one of the things before esports was even a thing, I'd play solo queue all day and be like, this game could be the best game in the world if Riot just invested money into esports, or had tournaments, or did anything. And I was just, every day I waited for that one day. And I saw the first tournament come up, I'm like, that was good, but they can do more, they can do more, they can do more. And that's what they've been doing. They've kept feeding, like, I guess my desire for League to just keep growing, competition to keep growing, and tournaments to keep growing. And it's just like, every time they've kept upping the bar, and I'm really, really thankful for Riot.
Is Riot Games perfect in everything that they do?
No, of course not. I don't think Riot's perfect. As I had mistakes growing too, Riot had mistakes growing too. There's a bunch of things in esports that made me want to hit my head on the table and cry tears all day. But that's what life is. Yeah. And Riot Games are run by people, and people make mistakes too. So I'm not perfect, they're not perfect. It's just a growing experience, and it's all of us learning that we're all here for the same goal. We all want to make esports big. So
what is it like for you now to look back on, you mentioned WCG, you mentioned seeing Kobe walk up, everybody being kind of surprised. And you mentioned whenever you were the only big streamer. What's it like for you now to look at where you were and where you are now? Obviously a retired player, but you have this team, you've got multiple employees that live in the house. You've got, Kelby and Matt Com, your assistant manager. You've got Monty, who right now is over from Korea. He's also part of the team. What is it like to see this little project that you had now have, this big amount of infrastructure with several different sponsors and a house? And is it ever strange for you, or was this just sort of the path that you had always projected?
I mean, this was kind of the path that I always projected and I always wanted to kind of like get to.
Yeah.
If anything, like, I still haven't like taken the time and looked and been like, wow, I've made it, or I've like, CLG's really become big. I'm always thinking the next step. Right. Like, I don't have time to think about what I have and appreciate it. I need to get better, bigger, so that I can maintain a stable company that can, support all these people and that can stand the test of time. So I'm always working, I'm always thinking about the next step.
So what is the next step? Or is that confidential NDA?
No, the next step is to win. Like, it's been so frustrating. CLG as a business has been like kind of all over the place at the start because, I'm a 20-year-old kid running the business and I didn't know what I was doing at the time. But, once I finally found the right people to help me get to where I need to be, the business side is quite well right now. And we have a great staff. We're probably one of the best when it comes to sponsor fulfillment. out of any esports company, and we're just on the ball. And so the next step is definitely winning. So we're trying our hardest to just find what we can do to win.
For you personally, is the next step? It sounds like you're really invested in the business and obviously trying to get the team to be successful. Do you think the next step for you is to sort of transition to this business role, or do you think that it's a lot of? Do you want to have a lot of that stuff passed off onto the management that you have at the company?
So, like, I still make some high-level decisions when it comes to the business, but that to me is like, it's already been taken care of. There's people that work on it. Like Kelby's got the business like all down pat, and I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is winning. That's all I care about. And so I think at night when I'm like laying down on my bed, I'm like, how can we win? What needs to happen? And you know, I'm starting to coach full time now because I really think that the team needs that. And we're changing our like rules and schedules, and you know, like the top 30 challenger, like people have to be in challenger to even play other games. We won't let them play other games or else they'll get fined. And we're really strict, and we're really trying to get on people to really take this seriously.
Okay.
Really, really, really.
Really, really, really. After your retirement, you kind of disappeared from the scene. In fact, like there were moments in time where I remember being like, "What's going on with Hotshot?" And people were like, "Whatever." You know, it was kind of quiet. What actually happened for you after your retirement, personally? Because now you're obviously out there a lot. We've even seen you play. You're talking a lot about how you're coaching all the time. What happened in those several months?
So when you have something a part of your life for that long of a time, and your job is so laid out in front of you, and you kind of wake up to it every day, and then you have a drastic change in your life, it changes how you feel, and it changes. You don't know what you're supposed to do with yourself at that point. You know, you kind of have to go back and find your identity and find what you need to do. And for a long time, I was just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And I was just trying to understand what I needed to do to make myself happy, what I needed to do to make CLG successful. And it was just a balance of finding what's right to me.
Was there a moment where that happened, when that snapped? Did you see Doublelift walk in and die to 5 people on the other team while watching LCS and say, "It's time for me to step up and be involved," or did this just sort of happen as a casual realization? Did somebody else reach out to you on the team? You know, what really sparked this change for you, and when did you realize what you was next for you?
So it's actually pretty much that. When I saw the team have that terrible performance, but show so much promise at Battle of the Atlantic,
okay,
I was like, if I just told them what to do and kind of guided them in what they should not do, and you know, give them ideas, this would have never happened.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm like, I don't care what people think at this point, because you know, they're just not. You know, everybody has confidence in themselves, and they're like, yeah, I don't need this guy, or I don't need this guy, and once they start losing, they're like, oh, okay, maybe we do need this guy. And at that point, I was like, okay, the team really needs me to step up. And I've got to do it. I've got to figure out a way to make these guys successful. I need to make these guys win. And I think coaching is the first step to making that happen. And so I'm going to, like, kind of, with Monty, rule them with an iron fist.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're going to rule them with an iron fist. It was, I think, pretty well known, especially when Chaucer was on the team, that you guys, there was often internal conflict between CLG. Even sometimes that would get streamed, maybe inadvertently. Have you found that the team is really receptive to a lot of the feedback and information that you've been trying to provide them with?
Generally.
Okay.
And it's usually specific people that have problems, but generally it's well received now. So with Monty, he helps a lot to kind of have a second guy to back me up, or have me to back him up, and you know, we're kind of a tag duo that gets things done.
Doublelift the hardest to Doublelift
is a very, very he's a very hard person to change his mind. Like, usually he has something that he believes is correct, and if you try to fight him on it, it's really hard for that change to happen, but he's doing better. And he is not the doublelift he used to be, that's for sure. He's gotten so much better, so.
Hey, I really hate the question, you know, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think that's kind of BS, but I do want to ask you, you know, what would you like to see for yourself? Maybe not in 5 years, maybe a year from now, maybe 10 years from now, but like, would you like to get back into professional gaming at some point in time? I mean, we saw you recently come out of retirement to help out the team. Like, what would you like to see, you know, besides the team's success for yourself personally?
So I wanted to kind of get back into professional gaming at the amateur level right now, just because, you know, it was kind of fun playing again, and also it was, when I was on my LeBlanc train, I actually felt really confident in my abilities, and I felt confident in myself. And at that point, I was like, if I played this good in LCS, and I did this on like multiple champions, like I would just dumpster everyone. But the problem came after like I saw it took a break and stuff, and I got out of it. Kind of this week or 2 weeks that CLG kind of needed me to play, I tried like really hard, and I kind of got back into it a bit. And it kind of made me want to start playing again, but at the same time, it's more important that I coach the team to myself. You know, that's more of a personal desire. The coaching role is like, it's not a personal desire. It's something I need to do for the team and for the organization.
All right. So is there a potential that after you get done with this coaching thing, you know, CLG sees success? Could actually, maybe the better way to ask the question is, if CLG places first at the end of the split, are we going to see HotshotGG rise with from the ashes like a phoenix to coach somebody in the Coke Zero League, or I mean, be on the Coke Zero League rather, not coach?
Maybe.
Participate.
Unfortunately, if I take that much time in coaching and not playing the game, I might not be good enough, and I don't think I'll be good enough. So I guess this is me just forfeiting that dream to make sure that the team does well.
How about outside League of Legends? If some game came up right now.
I mean, like maybe Hearthstone.
Hearthstone, yeah. Are you gonna roll up against Artosis at the next BlizzCon?
Maybe. League is a very like mechanical game, and it's like you have to really give it 17 hours a day, 10 days a week. And you have to like literally make a time machine to make multiple days in the week to beat Faker. Like, to be that good is just, it's so incredibly hard that, you know, I don't know if I could do it, even if I tried.
Hey, I just want to give you an opportunity to, I mean, everybody knows they give shout-out opportunities at the end, but you've had, you know, this long career. You're still around doing coaching stuff and working with the team. Is there anything that you'd like to sort of say to fans or people that have existed with you through that time now at the end of this?
I like to say thank you to the fans that have supported me for a long time, and you know, I really appreciate it, and I really every day I look back at like kind of how things were, and I want to get back into streaming again, and I want to be kind of that like HotshotGG I used to be, but I guess we're just waiting for the right moment, and when that right moment comes, you know, I'll be there.
Anything else you want to shout out at the end here?
I like to shout out my sponsors, iBuyPower, NZXT, Zubu TV, and Razer.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for the interview, Hotshot. It's been really fun seeing your career and all that. I'm interested to see what's ahead of you.
Thank you.
For everyone, you can check out the rest of our coverage and league content and esports content in general at ongamers.com.